If you want to finally get ahead financially in 2025, a great money challenge that can help you get there is called the no-buy year, which is where you commit to not purchasing non-essential items for an entire year. Choosing to do a no-buy challenge can drastically change your financial life because it can help you reset your spending habits. Reevaluate your values, become more mindful of your consumption, pay down debt, increase your savings, become better at managing money, reduce stress, simplify your life, and develop gratitude. Doing a no-buy year can help you get on the path to achieving more financial freedom in life. And in this video, I want to walk you through the 9 steps that you need to take in order to plan out your no-buy year and make 2025 the best financial year of your life. And so let's start off with the first step. Write down a list of things you're allowed to buy. Now, despite how this sounds, a no-buy year does not mean that you're not buying anything for an entire year. That is literally impossible because as human beings, we have needs that need to be met. But a no-buy year, as I explained in the first sentence of this video, is where you commit to not purchasing non-essential items for an entire year. A no-buy year is where you cut out non-essential spending. And what non-essential spending means is completely subjective because we're all living different lives and we all have different needs. And so the first step that you need to take to plan out your no-buy year is to write down a list of things that you're allowed to buy. For example, some essentials you might need are groceries, toilet paper, toiletries, housing, utility bills, cell phone bills, gas, medication, dog food. And again, this list is completely subjective and is up to you to decide how far you want to take it. Some other things that you might want to include are things like 1 vacation a year, 1 meal out a week, and 1 haircut a month. There is no right or wrong way to do this, and everyone's list will look different. But the point of this exercise is to write down and figure out exactly what your needs are. It's about being intentional with your spending instead of just spending carelessly like the majority of our population. And once you create this list of things that you're allowed to buy, the second step that you need to take is write down a list of things you're allowed to replace. Now, a lot can happen in a year, and throughout the year, there are going to be things in your life that break or wear down, and if you don't replace them, it will drastically decrease your quality of life. For example, I am training for a marathon right now, and in a month or so, my shoes are going to start wearing out. And if I don't buy new shoes, I could have problems with my knees, and so I will need to buy new shoes. And so in this second step, you need to write down a list of things that you're allowed to replace if needed. And to do this, it's good to look into the future and try to predict what might happen throughout the year. For example, I'll need to replace my shoes when my soles wear out. My underwear might need to be replaced when the elastic quits. My glasses might need to be replaced if they break, or my car if it starts having problems. And to be honest, creating this list can be a hard thing to do because we don't always know what we're going to need to replace throughout the year, but generally, this list should consist of necessities you only have one of, and things if you didn't replace would drastically decrease your quality of life. And if you can't write down everything, just make judgment calls throughout the year. If your TV breaks, do you really need to buy a new one? For some people, it might be a yes. Others, it's a clear no. And again, there is no right or wrong way to do this. But the point of doing this is just to be intentional with your spending and understand the difference between a need and a want. Something that very few people in 2025 understand. And once you created that list of things that you're allowed to replace throughout the year, the third step is write down a list of things you're not allowed to buy under no circumstance. And the final list that you need to create is the things that under no circumstance, no matter what happens throughout the year, you are not allowed to buy or replace. And this list will probably be huge. It will consist of things like technology, clothing, furniture, kitchen supplies, dining out, takeout coffee, subscriptions, beauty products, impulse purchases, books, luxury items, jewelry, and gifts. There are so many things that we buy that we do not need to buy, and the more detail that you make this list, as well as the other two lists, the better. And so up to this point in the video, we have established the ground rules of our no-buy year. We created a list of things we're allowed to buy, a list of things we're allowed to replace, and a list of things we're not allowed to buy. And again, the point of creating these lists is to be more intentional with your spending and figure out exactly what your needs are, what your sort of needs are, and what your wants are. And so now that we've established the ground rules, the fourth step that we need to take is create a time length. Now, although this is called a no-buy year, it is not mandatory to do this over the course of a year, but you could choose a shorter amount of time to do this, like a 6-month challenge, a 3-month challenge, or a 30-day challenge in January. Committing to an entire no-buy year can be a big commitment, so choose a time length that is realistic for you to do. I think committing and finishing to a 30-day challenge is better than committing to a year challenge and quitting after 2 weeks. So be realistic with yourself and decide how long that you want to do this challenge. The 5th step is track your pre-no-buy year spending. So before you actually do this no-buy challenge, it's good to first see where you stand financially before you do the challenge and figure out exactly where your money is going and how much you're spending. And many moons ago, I made this video on how exactly to do this. In the video, I walk you through my free spreadsheet on how to track all of your expenses and get a detailed breakdown of your income versus spending, your different spending categories, the spending type, and your want and need breakdown. Free of charge, compliments of El Augustine. But before you do this challenge, it's very important to track your spending and have an idea of how much you're spending every single month, because then once you start your no-buy challenge, you can understand how much money you're saving by doing this challenge. And I'd recommend tracking your spending for 3 months before you do this challenge to get an average of how much you're spending each month. And once you track your pre-no-buy spending, then we can move on to the 6th step. Begin your no-buy challenge. Once you completed the first 5 steps that we have talked about, you can now begin your no-buy challenge. And you can go out in the world and be more intentional with your spending and follow the rules on what you're allowed to buy, what you're allowed to replace, and what you're not allowed to buy. And commit to it. Don't be one of those people who watches hours of no-buy YouTube videos and takes no action. Don't be like the 99% of people that watch this video. And I challenge you to be the 1%. And once you commit to it, then we can move on to the 7th step. Track your post-no-buy spending. So now that you've gone out in the world and been more intentional with your spending and only buy essential things, we can now do what we did again in step 5 and track all of our spending for the past month of doing this challenge. So look at your bank statements, credit card statements, or anything that tells you how you've been spending your money and fill out the spreadsheet for that month. And doing this takes time and effort, maybe an hour to a month, a big whoop. But doing this is so important because once you track all of your spending, you will have this highlighted number right here that tells you how much money you have spent throughout the month. And this number will give you an understanding of how much money you're saving and how you're benefiting financially by doing this challenge. And in order to understand that, we now need to move on to the 8th step. Reveal your savings. This is the exciting part of the challenge. In this step, you will see how much money you are saving because you are choosing to do the no-buy challenge. And as I explained before on the spreadsheet, this highlighted cell tells you exactly your total spending for the month. And so what you need to do is first look at your pre-no-buy year spending. Let's say on average you spent $5,000 a month. Then look at the total of your first post-no-buy spending month, let's say $3,000 a month, and discover how much you saved. In this case, you have saved $2,000. And to be completely honest, saving an extra $2,000 a month isn't realistic on most people's budgets. You might be saving less money, but I guarantee you that if you do this no-buy challenge, you will save a substantial amount of money relative to your budget. And do this month after month. Compare your post-no-buy month spending to your average pre-no-buy month spending, and discover how much doing a no-buy challenge is saving you each month. And once you do all of these steps, the final step is establish your why. Now, this is honestly something you should do first, but for the sake of this video, I had to explain all that first. But when you choose to do a no-buy challenge, you should have a clear understanding of why you're choosing to do this. What are your goals? As I mentioned in my theoretical example, it can potentially save you thousands of dollars a month. And what do you want to do with all that extra money? What are your goals? Maybe you want to pay down debt, build an emergency fund, save for something big, or invest more. Or maybe you're already in a good financial situation. Your goal isn't to save a lot of money, but your goal is to reset your spending habits. Become more mindful of your consumption, reevaluate your values, become better at managing money, simplify your life, understand wants versus needs, or develop gratitude. There are so many reasons why you should choose to do a no-buy challenge. It's something that can only benefit you. And if you plan to do a no-buy challenge in 2025, in the comment section, I'd love it if you share how long you plan to do it and why you plan to do it. Let's create a positive conversation in the comment section. And that is how you crush a no-buy year in 2025. And with that, muchas gracias. Que tengan un buen día. Nos vemos, chicos.